You're listening to Beyond Wellness Radio, bringing you the cutting edge in health, biohacking, and sports performance. Stay up to date and listen anywhere and anytime on your computer, tablet, or smartphone by subscribing on iTunes. Catch your host, Dr. Justin Marchegiani, as he answers your burning health questions as well as interviews from world-renowned guest experts. For more Beyond Wellness Radio, go to beyondwellnessradio.com.
Hey there, it's Dr. Justin Marchegiani. Welcome to Beyond Wellness Radio. Feel free and head over to beyondwellnessradio.com where you can access our full podcast transcriptions. While you're there, you can also sign up for our thyroid and female hormone video series. This series goes into the root cause of why your hormones are out of balance. While you're there, you can also schedule a functional medicine consult with Dr. Justin, myself, where we'll dig deeper into the root cause of your health challenges. Feel free and think of sharing this podcast with at least one person. This podcast grows by people sharing it. Sharing is caring. If you can think of one person that can benefit from this information, please feel free and share it. If you're enjoying the podcast, make sure you subscribe on iTunes. You can also click below the video or podcast where you'll see the iTunes review button and leave us a review. You can also sign up for the newsletter at beyondwellnessradio.com where you'll get updates before anyone else. Thank you so much and enjoy the show.
Justin, how you doing?
Evan, doing great, brother. How you doing today?
I'm pretty well. Hey, our audio quality, assuming everything goes well, should be increased by 200% on the listener side of things. So looking forward to that.
Absolutely. And if you guys are liking the better audio quality, let us know so we can keep doing it. If not, feedback's always great.
Yes, sir. So you brought up nutrient density, which I think is a good topic to discuss, something that's helpful. A lot of people are promoting online purchasing of meats. There's a lot of these different companies out there where people are buying subscriptions of this and that with their food, which is great. But to me, when it comes to your produce and especially your meat, I'm a huge fan of going organic and local, not just organic or not just grass-fed. If you're getting some subscription box of meat from California and you live in New York, yes, it's frozen. Yes, it's probably still going to retain a lot of its benefit, but think of the carbon footprint you're adding to transport that stuff via 2-day air to get it to your house so that the ice doesn't freeze, for example. So, I mean, just from a total overall ecological perspective, you're probably going to be much more cost effective and definitely more eco-friendly to go with a local organic source.
Well, absolutely. I mean, it's always better to shop local if you can. You know, we also have to understand that there's a convenience factor too, right? So if it's easier for me to get my fridge all stocked up with meat and have it cryovac and sealed and I can put it in there and access it when I want, that's great. If you have a good farm nearby that you can reach out to, and I do it both ways personally. So I have farms locally where I can acquire stuff, put it in my fridge. Ideally, I like it cryovac, cryo-sealed, just it lasts longer. I can put it in the fridge and not worry about it going bad and getting freezer burned. But there's also the aspect of, you know, wanting to support people locally. So I think it's definitely a double-edged sword and you have to figure out, number one, the most important thing is that you're compliant, right? Because you have to eat the food to get the benefit. So number one is making sure you're actually consuming that higher quality food because you get the nutrient density, you get all the quality nutrients. That's number one. And then number two, I consider, well, how do you get it, right? You know, if you can buy it from sources locally, that's better. It supports your local economy. And number two, you know, you're not buying meat that's been shipped around, which is going to, you know, more gasoline and more fumes and all that kind of stuff. So definitely local is better. But I always want to make sure that those nutrients are in my body first. What do you think?
True, that makes a good point. If you got a freezer full of bison meat like me, but I go out to McDonald's, then what's the whole point? So yeah.
Exactly. Yep. That's totally where I'm at. Now, regarding nutrient density, I think a lot of people, when they think nutrient density, they always go to in their head juicing, or they go to like kind of vegetarian nutrients regarding vegetables kind of stuff, which I think is good. I think you get a lot of nutrients via vegetables. But people forget meat is incredibly nutrient dense. Cholesterol, fat-soluble vitamins. These foods are really, really important to up nutrient density. And a lot of people, I think, that are vegetarian or vegan think that plants are kind of the the monopoly on nutrient density, that if they just juice, they'll be good to go, which I think that can be good. But juicing is a double-edged sword because you can also get a whole bunch of sugar if you're throwing carrots and fruit in there. And people forget about the fat-soluble nutrients, which necessarily is not going to come in your juicing. You're not going to get the vitamin A, D, E, and K. You'll get beta carotene, but a lot of people may have a hard time converting that over. So nutrient density, I think, is also a really important piece of the puzzle.
Yeah, well, let's talk about that a little bit further with the juicing aspect. Is you're also going to be removing a lot of the fiber, which is going to act as sort of a slow digesting product that's going to help you not spike your blood sugar and your insulin levels up as much. And so you and I have both had people we work with that are juicing. Maybe they eat some grass-fed beef too, but if they're juicing and they're unable to lose body fat, for example, well, if you don't have any fiber, because you're just juicing it, you're not making a smoothie, for example, instead, where you preserve the fiber content, and that blood sugar goes up, which causes the surge of insulin, you're going to be in fat storage mode. And no matter how much you exercise, no matter how much grass-fed beef you get, if you're dumping 80, 90 grams of sugar into your gut and first thing in the morning with your morning juice, then to me, I don't think you're going to get out of fat storage mode through the entire day. What's your thought?
Absolutely. I mean, the big thing to burning fat is keeping your insulin levels relatively low. Now, insulin is a storage hormone. That's also a good thing because we need storage hormones to put on muscle, right? People think insulin is just terrible. People in the low carb world think it's terrible, but go talk to a bodybuilder. A lot of them are actually injecting insulin to help increase protein synthesis. So there's good and bads. We can use insulin to our benefit to build muscle, but from an everyday perspective, we want to keep insulin lower during the day on average because that will help us tap into fat. The better and the greater ability we have to tap into fat, the better our mood's going to be, the less hunger pangs, the less cravings for bad junk, and the more you're just going to be stable. My analogy to my patients always is this. When you're burning fat, it's equivalent to putting logs in the fire, right? Everyone has the maybe memories of their childhood camping and they throw logs in the fire. So you throw logs in the fire, maybe you throw a little bit of kindling and lighter fluid to get it going, and you're good to go. That's logs in the fire. That's being a fat burner. Now, a lot of people, they are sugar burners. And what that means is that's like relying on kindling, paper, and or gasoline. Gasoline being refined sugar, right? Kindling and paper being carbohydrates. The more you rely on paper, think about it. You got to sit there and you got to feed that fire every couple of minutes. It's kind of like people that graze all day because they're not getting enough protein and fat in. So we want to be fat burners, logs in the fire, versus the sugar burners, which is the kindling, the paper, and even the gasoline for the refined sugar and alcohol. So we want to move on to the logs and away from the kindling as a mainstay, as a staple in what we're doing.
Yeah, and there's a lot of research about insulin and food and all of that. I think it gets personally pretty boring. And so I go to the firsthand experience. And when I chatted with Dr. Mercola on the podcast about a month ago, he's actually using that, I can't remember what it's called. It's that device where you inject it into your skin and it keeps your blood sugar. You can track your blood sugar like hundreds of times per day. And I'm not sure if it does insulin levels too or just blood sugar. But either way, he found out that the only way that he was able to consume fruit without causing a significant blood sugar, which therefore to me would signal insulin spike, was if he ate fruit while walking. And so when we were doing the podcast, he was like, "Oh, Evan, I usually don't do Skype like this." He's like, I'm shortcutting my daily walk on the beach for you. And I'm like, "Oh man, don't do that. Let me call you on your phone." So he gave me his phone number and I called him on his phone, and then he was walking and he's like, "Yeah, I'm actually eating on these berries I grew in my backyard right now." He's like, "This is the only way I can do it." And he's like, "I've tracked it every other way." He said, "I've done berries before walking, I've done berries after walking, and it all causes too much of a blood sugar spike. So while walking, blood sugar spike does not happen," which is interesting, but at the same time, it makes sense because if you and I were hanging out in the woods together 50,000 years ago and we were hunting and gathering together today, maybe we would have came across a wild blueberry bush and we would have ate those berries and kept walking. So it kind of makes perfect sense, really. You wouldn't have just been sitting there eating them. You would have been moving at the same time.
Absolutely. And again, I think it's unrealistic to think, though, eating food at all is going to create no blood sugar spike. The question is, how do we keep it within a normal variation so our body can adapt to it, right? So I think that's kind of the key thing that Dr. Mercola probably was getting at there. Or he's fanatical, right? He's doing everything to the umpteenth degree, which is great. I love it. It's great to be at that high level. But the question is, how do we extract that information and make it applicable to my patients? Because if I said, go eat your fruit while walking, they would look at me like I have 10 heads. Seriously. So it would not be something that we could apply. But what could we apply? Let's eat that fruit after our meal, so the absorption is slower. Or let's try not to eat fruit on an empty stomach. Or let's try to do it post-workout. Or let's just choose lower glycemic versions. And just the glycemic index unto itself isn't that important, because it's looking at sugar and its effect going into the bloodstream and how fast it goes into the bloodstream, which again by itself isn't a big deal because we eat fruit with other types of food, right? But we know higher glycemic index food goes into your body faster. Lower glycemic index food goes into it slower. So if I eat lower glycemic index types of foods, or in this analogy, fruit like berries or grapefruit or green apples or those kind of things, it's going to go in slower. And if I eat it with some high quality fats and proteins and veggies, it's going to go in even slower because the absorption in the stomach slowed down because of the protein, right? Things slow down in your stomach, take about an hour to pass through once protein's there. So if we do these natural things, we can slow it down. And also, if we're exercising and putting on muscle, the more muscle we have, muscle is a reservoir site for carbohydrate in the form of glycogen. So that's great because that means it's a bigger sponge. So imagine you're going to sop up a mess that your kid made on your table, and imagine you have just like one small paper towel. You're going to wipe through it, and that paper towel is going to be saturated, and then you'll be stuck just pushing around water, right? Or whatever they spilled, right? So you go back, now you get a handful of paper towels, and now you go up, now your absorption ability is so much higher. That's what muscle does. So simple movements like walking and those things, they're good for burning sugar, but they're not good for making the cloth that you're using bigger. So resistance training, high intensity interval training will put on the muscle and burn the sugar. The walking will just burn the sugar and ideally burn the fat as well. So we want to make that rag bigger so we can clean up that mess and sugar.
Good point. So you kind of transition into talking about building muscle then, which is a great point, and I believe all people should have muscle for sure. I'm still building myself back up. Actually, I bought a mountain bike this weekend, and I've been riding that, and I feel really good. I already feel like my legs are stronger and more engorged with blood after those hard pumping mountain bike workouts than before. So for me, that's kind of a goal of 2017, pick up all the muscle I lost when I had those infections in my gut. And maybe we should talk about other nutrient-dense things too. Something I've been into is broccoli sprouts. And I actually have some other sprouts that I haven't grown yet. I have some sunflower seed sprouts and others. But apparently broccoli's kind of the granddaddy of them all because of the sulforaphane. I believe you're getting something like 35 times the amount of sulforaphane in broccoli sprouts as you get with actual broccoli. And so I've been doing those. There's a lot of cool like anti-cancer benefits of those. But for me, it's just a great, easy thing. And it's fun too. So basically, me and my wife will grab it's like they call it a sprouting jar. Basically, it's just a giant oversized mason jar with a mesh lid. You put a little bit of seeds in it, put a little bit of filtered water, and you put it in the darkness for about a day. You'll take it out the next day, you rinse it, you'll put it back in the darkness, you lay the jar on its side. And then within 2 to 4 days, you have sprouts that are a couple to a few inches tall. And we just basically take it, and I eat the little shells too. It's like a nice little crunch. I'll eat the shell of the seed, and I just throw those on a salad. Or even I took a stew the other day. I did a bison stew with sweet potatoes, and I threw the sprouts on there. And it was incredible. So to me, I think if people are looking for what's one little cheap, easy, fun hack that you can do at home to get anti-cancer benefits, and you want to feel awesome and cooler than your friends who are not eating sprouts, then that's it. You can go on Amazon. You can get organic broccoli sprouts. Broccoli, what do they call them? Broccoli sprouting seeds for like $10. So anyway, that's my rant about seeds. Have you done sprouts like that? Have you ever tried them?
I have not done it too much just because of the extra bit of time that it's involved putting into it. But I mean, Dr. McCullers talked about it. Other people have talked about the nutrient density of it, and they're also very cost effective. So definitely, if you're on a budget when it comes to food, but you don't want to compromise the nutrient density, I think it's a phenomenal way to do it. And if I was back in school again, I would definitely look at making that a staple again. But for me right now, I'm just trying to keep it simple. So I get a lot of my stuff at Whole Foods locally, and the Whole Foods that I use, they do procure a lot of their produce and meats locally from different farms in the Texas, Austin area, which is great. So I can get the convenience of going to one place and also still supporting some of the local farmers. And there are still places locally that I do get the meat. I mean, I get a lot of my stuff at Grass-Fed Meat or U.S. Wellness Meats, but again, their farms are located in Texas too, which is really cool. So I do feel like that I'm still supporting a lot of my farms locally and getting stuff, pretty close by.
Cool. And you're in Whole Foods headquarters, so that's going to make a difference compared to some of the branches we have here.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And for me, nutrient density is super important. I think a lot of people who are vegetarian and vegan think that they may have the monopoly on that. But I think it's really important that plants don't quite have the same level of, obviously, protection as an animal does, right? They don't have the claws and they don't have the ability to run and fight and flee, but plants have anti-nutrients, and those anti-nutrients are there for a reason, and they're also there so seeds pass out through the stool, so then it can sprout and create more of that plant. So that's important, but those anti-nutrients also can disrupt digestion. They can also affect the gut lining, whether it's various lectins or various compounds, whether it's mineral blockers or mineral binders, whether it's phytates or oxalates or various lectins. There's lots of them, and they're different ones for each compound, each kind of plant. And cooking can help decrease some of that as well, which is great. So a lot of people that have digestive issues, they get better absorption by cooking it. And also there's a lot of fiber in plants that can bind up a lot of nutrition. That's why one of the things we talked about with juicing is you can cook some of your vegetables down. You can steam it, saute it. That'll break down some of the phytates and oxalates, but it will also liberate some of the fibers that are trapping up nutrients. And then from there, you can throw that food into like a Vitamix or a Magic Bullet, blend it up. That way you at least get some of the fiber. So some of the fiber that will blunt that sugar from getting into your bloodstream as fast. Remember, the faster your sugar gets into your bloodstream, the more insulin your body has to make to buffer it. So the more you can slow that sugar into your bloodstream, the less insulin the body makes. It's like push-pull. If we're doing tug of war and I pull back really hard, you're going to pull back the other way, probably just as hard. If I pull back a little, you're going to pull back a little. Imagine me as the pancreas, and you are, well, let me think here. The pancreas is the insulin, yeah, and then your blood sugar is you. So I'm the pancreas, you're the blood sugar, right? The faster I pull, the more sugar that you put out, the more I have to pull back. So think of the first pull is the blood sugar. The higher that blood sugar goes, the more you pull. I'm the pancreas, I make the insulin. The harder you pull, meaning the higher the blood sugar is, the more I got to pull by producing insulin. Does that analogy make sense?
Yeah, it works.
Yeah.
Yep. I just sent you an article that Mercola wrote. And so it sounds like maybe we'll have to interview the author of this book that he had here, this guy, John. But basically, in terms of grains and anti-nutrients and all of that, Mercola's kind of, he wrote his no grain book like a decade ago, or actually more than that. And then now after talking with this guy, he's kind of changing how he's feeling about grains. And so this guy is saying, basically in terms of seasonal eating and looking at genetics and history and blah, 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 that we were eating grains for potentially a million years as opposed to meat we're only eating for like 500,000 years. So now this long story here is that he's basically saying that you should be able to get fat adapted first. After you've regained your fat burning ability, then add back in grains in the right manner, and you should be okay to tolerate them. So it's pretty interesting because it's kind of an anti-grain diet community out there. And typically you and I see much better results when we tell people to go away from grains. I think there may be some validity to this, but to me it sounds like if you're up against leaky gut issues, if you're up against infections, if you're up against adrenal stress, to me you're not healthy enough to handle that. So I always try to look at this information like, oh yeah, maybe our ancestors did this, but at the same time, they didn't have the type of incessant 24/7 stressors that we do. So maybe our ancestors were able to tolerate what would have been quote-unquote organic grains a million years ago. Our modern life is different, and typically they're GMO, or they're hybridized, or they're sprayed with chemicals. So I don't know, this is an interesting this is an interesting wrench to throw into the no grain. The no grain. What do you call it? Bandwagon?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, here's my take on it. Okay, playing sports when I was younger, you remember like watching like whether it was a quarterback or a baseball player, they would do things differently. They would show off in a way, technique wise, that maybe wasn't something that you would consider to be a fundamental thing. Like you got guys going to the plate and doing all these crazy movements, or you got people in the field doing all these different flips and such. And I always tell my patients, that's like you being healthy. So when you're healthy, that's like being a professional athlete. To be a professional athlete, you have to get to that high level with the fundamentals at the highest level intact. Like you have to have the best fundamentals. Once your fundamentals are 100% dialed in, you can show off and showboat and do different things that someone starting out would never be able to do, right? So that's akin to someone being healthy. When someone's healthy, they can go and add little bits of cheat here and there and honestly have no problem with it. Now, the question is, how do we decrease the amount of damage that a cheat does? And that's where I think some of these things can be added in, whether it's sprouting grains or whether it's choosing sourdough breads or whether it's choosing breads that are higher in nutrient density and less gut irritating compounds. That's a great starting point. But again, most of the people that I'm seeing and you're seeing, they're sick or they have some kind of health challenge. So my goal as a physician is I don't want to add variables in that's going to make my job harder when I'm working with my patients. I want to cut all the variables out so I know I'm working with a tabula rasa. It's a blank slate. And then from there, we can build them up. And then once they're at a level where they're like, Dr. J, I feel great. My mood's great. My periods are better. My brain fog's gone. My libido's better. I'm sleeping good. My energy's great. Then we can say, all right, let's, if you want to have a cheat this weekend, it's your kid's birthday party, fine. But if we have an option to choose a grain or a starch or a tuber that's going to have less issues, I'm all about doing the thing that's going to have the least amount of damage. Does that make sense?
Agreed. Yeah, like you and I talked last weekend. You were telling me about those taro, what was it, taro pancakes or taro root waffles?
Yes.
That you had, they were freaking amazing, and that's grain-free.
Yeah, I was at a picnic last weekend again, and I had for dessert, I had the blueberry pancakes with the yucca root. It was yucca root, which is great. It's a starchy tuber. It's like kind of in the same family as a sweet potato. That's much better for my gut, and how I feel afterwards is so much better. My skin thanks me. I don't get the breakouts. I don't get the inflammation. But we can't also ignore the research that gluten, even if you're not necessarily having a gluten-sensitive reaction, can still increase gastrointestinal permeability. And that's really important.
I know.
Because the autoimmune epidemic. Go ahead.
I agree. It's like, how do you... It's like, okay, you can take research on this point that says, okay, ancient people would have eaten more than just meat and vegetables. Ancient people would have had grains, but then we look at, like you say, we look at research between gluten and zonulin and intestinal permeability and all that stuff we've already talked about. And then you got this whole leaky gut thing looming over. You got this big leaky gut elephant in the room. And so I think it's interesting here that Mercola kind of talks out. He says, I wanted to address the perceived conflict between what this guy's saying in his book, Eat Wheat, and then what Dr. Perlmutter is saying in his book, Grain Brain, and in other books. And so basically, long story short, these guys kind of talk it out between each other, and then they say exactly what we discussed, which is, once your digestion is properly restored, maybe you can reintroduce the grains. So really, this is basically what we've already said in 200 episodes, but I like how it's the head honchos of, the biggest anti-grain guy out there versus the biggest pro-guy grain out there, and they're kind of going head to head, and it sounds like they both come to the same conclusion, which is what you said so eloquently with the analogy of the athlete, which is once detoxification is enhanced, once gut health is taken care of, once leaky gut's addressed, maybe you can add this stuff back in. Me personally, I'm not really going to be going that way because I've noticed a difference in my skin health. And for sure, even if it isn't organic grain, to me, if I know that that's going to contribute to leaky gut, do I really want to do that? In our ancient world, where we would have had less chemicals, maybe intestinal permeability wouldn't have been as big of a deal. But to me, in the modern world, I don't really want a leaky gut or a leaky brain due to all these other chemicals out there. So for me, I'd rather be more protected and just be grain-free. And I think that's going to help me sleep at night better from both an emotional but also a dietary perspective. What do you think?
Oh, 100%. And then Dr. McCullough and the other doctor that he interviewed here talked about one of the Italian studies where the gluten-free sourdough bread tend to cause no intestinal inflammation. So I think if we kind of look at good, better, best, right? In my opinion, my bias based on my autoimmune condition and dealing with thousands of patients that have autoimmune conditions, and also just facing the fact that a large percent of the population has silent autoimmune conditions. I would say the majority. And again, the question is, it's the tincture of time, it's the tincture of stress, chemical, physical, and emotional that causes these things to express. So looking at that, I always say, try to keep it grain-free, but if we're going to a good sourdough bread could be a great option if you want to introduce some bread in there and not have some of the deleterious effects. Or just like myself, find places that will have the yucca flour. Like I'll go to a Estancia or a Fogo de Chao and get some of the yucca rolls, or I'll do the yucca pancakes, right? Or sweet potato or pumpkin pancakes. So I try to use starchy tubers to get the same kind of mouthfeel as I would get from the grains without having the same kind of inflammatory response.
Agreed. Yeah. And I guess at the end of the day, it goes back to the clinical application too, because we don't know this guy who's promoting this now. We don't know what his clinical experience is. I mean, has he worked with people with autoimmune disease, very complex diseases like you have thousands of times, like I have about 1,000 times now? I don't think he probably has that clinical takeaway where he's actually worked with people where they've got Hashimoto's and other diseases, and they've got parasites like we're looking at, and adrenal problems. I mean, for us, I don't know. Obviously, we're biased, but to me, the functional medicine background that we both apply to this whole conversation, it supersedes the conversation of wheat or no wheat, because there's all these other factors that are tied in. And when those factors are tied in, it changes the conversation to me.
Absolutely. And then frankly, when someone sees a title of a book that says eat wheat, what's your response? I mean, for me, I think what that does for most individuals, it justifies them continuing to eat a lot of the crap they eat.
Agreed. And if you see wheat, that's going to say, okay, well, then that means I could go back to
bun on my burger. I can go back to the sandwich at lunch. I can go back to the pasta at dinner. And I think that is a slippery slope. And I think if we were to get this author on the show, and I think he clarifies, he's definitely talking about whole food sources. I think he would even clarify the GMO organic sources, because we know 90% of wheat in this country is not organic, and it's sprayed with tons and tons of pesticides, and it's genetically modified, which is an experiment unto itself. When the human studies on GMOs really don't go past 3 or 4 weeks, I have a strong suspect of always going to old foods over new foods when the research is not in-depth and very long and extensive.
Agreed. Yeah, people will probably think we're ganging up on them if we do a 3-way interview, but I think it will be a fun conversation. And the clarification is there where it says refined grains and blah, 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 how those are bad and you want whole grains, etc. But to me, if we're talking and kind of wrapping up the nutrient density thought, for me, the top of the food chain in terms of what do you best bang for your buck, it's going to be good quality, organic, pasture-raised animals. You're going to have your good organic, even if you could do like organic wild blueberries. Apparently wild blueberries get sprayed. If they're not organic, wild blueberries are sprayed. Not good. So your organic berries, your organic veggies, your good organic butters, if you can tolerate it, your ghee, your coconuts, your avocados. One thing I like to say now is, do avocados over avocado oil, do macadamias over macadamia oil. You don't have to go to all these processed products. Avocado oil is more processed than an avocado by itself. So if you do the actual food of an avocado, do that. Your macadamias, and on and on. Your leafy greens, and that's your nutrient density. And then maybe 5% of it, you do have some of these organic sourdough bread, like you mentioned. And maybe you're okay with it. If your gut's clean, you don't have infections, your adrenals are healthy, maybe you've worked on chemicals, you've worked on heavy metals, maybe you could do it and you can get away with it. At the end of the day, what is the whole purpose of our show? Is to help people be healthy, is to help people be happy, not to hear a conversation like this and leave feeling more confused than before. So this is not us changing our stance on anything. The same thing still applies. Get yourself tested, look for infections, make sure you're clear, make sure you have healthy adrenals, your detox pathways are working, and you have a primarily organic meat and veggie and a little bit of berry-focused organic diet with maybe a little bit of some starches like sweet potatoes and some organic white rice in there.
Absolutely.
Does that summarize it at all?
Yeah, I think it's really important. And just the last piece I just kind of want to harp on. If someone is not a clinician, meaning they haven't dealt with thousands of patients that have these issues, or they don't have an issue like that themselves, it's really easy to lose the empathy for the cheat. A lot of times people talking about, well, a little bit of this is okay. Well, it depends. What's the consequence of that? How many days are you set back? How exacerbated is your autoimmune condition? How bad are the breakouts? How bad are the symptoms that arise from it for days or maybe weeks later? So I think you really have to look at that in the equation, and you really have to make your decision based on that. And I think it's really important that if you're a patient or you're someone listening to this and want to use that info to justify eating more of these foods, always have someone on board, whether it's a functional nutritionist or functional medicine doctor, that can kind of walk you through it and go through the pros and the cons, just to make sure you aren't maybe making a decision that's a little bit hasty, because you got those cravings going on there. And make sure you're doing, your health should be the ultimate goal in there, not to have a quick short-term satisfaction of some bread, but to make sure your health's number one. And again, if you need to reach out to someone, Evan and myself are available, not just paleo.com and justinhealth.com, if you want more information of getting your diet dialed in. And then obviously the last piece is, if you got gut inflammation and leaky gut and you already have GI symptoms, the last thing you want to be doing is throwing any bread or grains into your diet right now.
Awesome. Well said. And people may guess and check. The inflammation word's thrown around a lot. You don't have to guess and check whether you have inflammation. If Justin and I are looking at organic acids testing with you, we can look at that, like a quinolinic 5-HIAA ratio on Great Plains. That's a great marker for inflammation. And then also on the GI map that we use, you can also see calprotectin levels there for intestinal inflammation. So even just for that perspective, if you're curious, do I have inflammation? Should I be taking this curcumin supplement, wasting all my money on it? Well, why don't you just get tested, figure out what your inflammation levels are, on a number on a piece of paper, go the more clinical route, and then you'll know. We're huge fans of testing, not guessing, because in the long term, it's going to save you more money, and you're not buying 20 supplements that may help you, but may not be moving the needle as much as you previously thought.
Love it. Excellent, Evan. Very good. Any other thoughts?
I don't think so. We'll talk next week.
I think we nailed it. Anyone listening that's really enjoying this show, feedback is great. We're getting a lot more emails, and we're getting show ideas up in the queue. And also, show us your love. Give us a 5-star rating on iTunes. Click below the link and give us some love. We appreciate it.
Got a question for Dr. J? Go to BeyondWellnessRadio.com and click the questions button. Then tune in to hear the answer. Also, if you like the show, click below to review us on iTunes. For more Beyond Wellness Radio, go to BeyondWellnessRadio.com.